You're right on time for Africa Focus. Good afternoon from where you're watching us from. My name is Joel Church and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. Talk to us via social media platforms at Switch TV Kenya, Joel Chacha M on Twitter, as well on Facebook, Switch TV Kenya and Joel Chacha. Send in an SMS via 111 444 111. But first, here's what is making headlines. Chadians are hoping for change and improvements to their living conditions under the presidency of Idris Deby's son and successor Mahamat Idris Deby. Nigeria's inflation hit a 4-year high of more than 18% in March, with food prices up 22.9%. The World Food Programme works to get emergency rations to some 950,000 people in north of Mozambique who are facing severe hunger. We begin our focus in Chad, where following the burial of former Chadian President Idris Deby Itno, who was 67 years old and spent 30 years as the head of the country, residents of Chad are hoping for change and improvements to their living conditions under the presidency of his son and successor Mahamat Idris Deby.
Chad faced an uncertain future as the son of slain leader Idris Deby took power in what the opposition called a coup, and Western allies that rely on the country's military might pleaded for stability. Deby had ruled the impoverished desert state for 3 decades before the army announced his death as a result of wounds suffered while leading troops in battle against rebels.
With him we have experienced change too. But not completely. We want a good leader. We want his son who replaced him to be like him, but he must do better than his father. If life has to change, that's fine, but it has to be under the right conditions.
Si la vie doit changer, c'est bon aussi, mais il faut qu'elle change dans les bonnes conditions aussi.
Allies of the late leader moved swiftly to assure power remained in their hands, installing Deby's 37-year-old son, Mahat Idris, as president and head of Transitional Military Council while dissolving parliament and the government.
Since the National Army has decided to appoint the president's son as president, we have no choice. We just want things to go well.
They tore up Chad's constitution and established a transition charter that lays out a new basic law for the country of 16 million people spanning Western and Central Africa.
There are no companies in Jamena, so we will prefer that he sets up a lot of companies, that he integrates us into the civil service, because there is a lot of unemployment, unemployed youth, unemployed graduates. There are many of them.
The charter proclaims that Mahamat, who had been head of the powerful presidential guard, will occupy the functions of the president and also serve as a head of the armed forces. The transition period is meant to last 18 months and lead to democratic elections, although it can be extended once. Saza Munga for Africa Focus.
Still a focus in that particular country, Chadian civil society organizations are calling for a public demonstration to demand the dissolution of the Transitional Military Council headed by General Mahamat Idris Deby, who took power following the death of his father Idris Deby Itno.
Chad staged a funeral for the veteran ruler Idris Deby, a linchpin in the fight against Sahel jihadist insurgency, even as France and the regional allies voiced backing for his son and the successor Mahamat Idris Deby.
We are calling on the Chadian population all over the country to take to the streets on Tuesday for public demonstration, and we will stay on the streets if we're not listened to.
The African Union, meanwhile, called on Chad security forces to respect the constitutional mandate and order and to expeditiously embark on a process of restoring of constitutional order and handing over political power to the civilian authorities.
We place ourselves under the protection of the African Union and the United Nations and ask that mechanisms be urgently set into motion to ensure the protection of citizens, to take charge of the process of comprehensive and inclusive dialogue, to build a consensual transition and to create the conditions that guarantee a lasting political handover.
The body's Peace and Security Council also called for an inclusive national dialogue and expressed a grave concern over the said establishment of a military concern.
To this end, we reject any possibility of using French forces for this purpose, even if they are already positioned in the territory.
We, the Chadian artist members of the platform in the name of respect, demand the non-involvement of the French policy of double standards in the management of the Chadians' affairs. We say no to monarchization of the Chads by France.
Monarchisation du Tchad par la France.
The younger Debbie, a 37-year-old foster general commanding the elite Republican Guard, was named the president and the head of the military council immediately after his father's death, a move that has been branded an institutional coup by the opposition. Robert Ouma, Switch TV.
As the World Food Programme WFP is working to get emergency rations to some 950,000 people in the north of Mozambique who are facing severe hunger. The region has been ravaged by escalating Islamist insurgency since 2017, including horrific attacks in Palma last month that killed dozens and displaced tens of thousands.
The World Food Programme said it needed $82 million to provide life-saving assistance to hundreds of thousands of people facing severe hunger in violence-ravaged northern Mozambique. The UN agency said more than 950,000 people were now facing severe hunger and warned that growing attacks of jihadists in the region were adding to the already desperate situation.
They are killing us, they are burning our houses, and they are taking our children. They are killing us with guns. We are so desperate about this situation.
Mozambique's north has been ravaged by an escalating Islamic insurgency since 2017, including horrific attacks in Palma last month that killed dozens and displaced tens of thousands.
We traveled for 6 days with no food. I had brought some food for the journey, but it only lasted 3 days. For the remaining days, we had nothing.
World Food Programme spokesperson Thomson Phiri told reporters in Geneva that many have scattered into neighboring Mueda, Pemba and Montepuez districts, as well as onto the small islands dotted along the Cabo Delgado coastline, adding to an already desperate situation in northern Mozambique.
What we know is that people have been walking for days, some as many as 5-6 days. They've hidden in the bush, again without food and water, just escaping with what they have.
Phiri said they aimed to assist 750,000 internally displaced people and vulnerable members of the host communities across Cabo Delgado, Nampula, Niassa and Zambezia provinces.
So when they're arriving in places, looking for safety, looking for shelter, they are hungry, they are tired and they are traumatized by what they've also witnessed. So for WFP, it's important that we get our immediate response rations to them as quickly as possible. And this is food that will last them for about 15 days. That's rice, that's oil, beans, sardines, and water.
The agency was currently organizing emergency food distributions for families who have fled the violence in Palma and said that it would aim to assist 50,000 people displaced from the town. Caroline Suma, Switch TV.
Meanwhile, French police have arrested 3 people linked to a 36-year-old Tunisian man who stabbed to death a police employee at a workplace southwest of Paris in a suspected Islamist attack. The murder at a police station in Rambouillet, a commuter town about 60 kilometers from Paris, revived the trauma of a spate of deadly attacks last year. The attacker, identified only as Jamel G, was fatally wounded when an officer opened fire on him. He arrived in France illegally in 2009, but had since obtained residency papers, thus according to a police source, adding that he was unknown to security services and he had just moved to Rambouillet. A time to take a breather. Stay with us here on Africa Focus. Still to come. We tell you of giant motorbikes in Cameroon that are several meters long. Welcome back to Africa Focus. My name is Joel Church and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dorcas. Moving on, Nigeria's inflation hit a 4-year high of more than 18% in March, with food prices up 22.9%. That's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. At the popular food markets of Lagos, customers paint a grim picture of soaring prices. Faith Ombua with more.
Nigerian haulage operator Wahid Ibn Kuli and his family used to eat boiled eggs every day as part of their breakfast. However, with the price of a crate of eggs almost doubling since January to 1,500 naira, the family has had to cut them from their daily diet.
You come to the market just like the way you saw me pricing things. You no longer get them the same way we used to buy again. Even them themselves, they keep complaining. They buy very cost.
Africa's largest economy was already struggling with a fall in the price of oil, Nigeria's major export, and a weak local naira currency before the global pandemic struck. Now Nigeria's inflation has soared to a 4-year high of more than 18%, with food prices going up to 22.9%, according to the National Bureau of Statistics.
That's how you manage for that month. Nothing like savings again, no. You only pray for that money to even reach you that month before another salary will.
According to Ibn Kule, who is also involved in the import and export trade, he blames poor infrastructure coupled with falling value of the naira for pushing up prices.
Sales of some items, the cost of some items, as at 2 weeks ago, has increased with like 50% increase. We experience that increase almost every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic and oil price crash have hammered Nigeria's economy, which gets 90% of foreign exchange earnings from crude exports, pushing it into the second recession in 4 years.
For we workers to be able to save is affecting the savings. It's affecting because the income is not really increasing, but the prices of items are increased. So it makes it so difficult for us to cope with the economy.
As well as inflation, a rise in joblessness has left a third of Nigeria's workforce unemployed at the end of 2020, according to the Statistics Office, having the World Poverty Clock reports, reading that at the latest count, Nigeria had 43% of its population, or about 90 million people, living below the poverty line of less than $1.90 per day. Daniel Kariuki for Switch TV.
I beg your pardon, the story was voiced by Daniel Kariuki and not Faith Ombua. Moving on, the traditional fishermen of the Niger Delta live less and less on the fish that are becoming scarce in this immense territory in the heart of South Mali and the Sahel. According to the president of Niger Delta Fishermen's Federation, Osman Jebba, before the river was deep and the fishing seasons are long, now there are far fewer fish and the river has too many problems.
Today, fishermen catch all fish, even the small ones, not letting them breed. Before, there were places such like ponds where they could go fishing because the river was deep during those seasons that favored fish.
The production has gone down and down. For example, in 2017, we had 35,000 tons. In 2018, it was 10,000 tons. In 2019, it was about 24,000 tons. While in 2020, we had 23,000 tons. There is also the effect of man, anthropotic actions. For example, people fish with non-selective fishing gear that takes everything. It means everything for me and nothing for others.
The river in general is being engulfed by silting everywhere, and its all entire length. Areas of very high production are now cut off from the river. What is due to? I think it's due to silting.
There are no authorities around the river. The jihadists have created their own checkpoint. They come on motorcycles and stand in the shade of a tree with their rifles. When there is a boat passing by, they ask you to stop. If you don't stop, they will kill you.
I stopped fishing in the river because there was not enough depth. So I decided to create a pond where I could fish and produce fish myself. It's easier than going without fishing.
On to other news, a renowned Catholic priest, Cardinal John Onayekan, paid a visit to the Al-Bibiya Mosque in Abuja to distribute food to over 2,000 worshippers at an iftar event to break the Ramadan fast. Cardinal Onayekan, the former Archbishop of Abuja, joined the mosque chief Imam Fuad Adeyemi and Plateau State's Governor Simon Lalong in preaching a message of peaceful coexistence between Muslims and Christians in the country of more than 200 million people with a history of religious conflict.
And we try our best to spread this whole attitude of openness, because we believe that God does not want his children to be killing one another. He wants us to live in peace. So whatever we can do to promote peace, we should do. And I think no religion promotes wickedness. So once we see that something is happening that is actually going the way of wickedness, of not being kind to one another, the first thing that a religious leader should do is to say, stop it. Even if it is being done by a very close member of my church or a close member of my mosque.
People see that the food we are eating was given to us by a Christian clergy, cardinal that everybody knows is not underground clergy person. It shows that we can actually live together, we can be friends together, and we can live in peace. They are coming together also mean that be careful, all of us, that the entire world have seen us together. We should watch what we do, we should watch what we say, we should watch what we preach.
That we must encourage this religious harmony. Today we are here to break fast. I understand even here to break fast, many Christians come to join every day. They come to join in our brothers Muslims to break this fast. So let it be that significance, and our prayer is that God will use this and continue to answer our prayers so that there will be peace in Nigeria and peace all over the world.
Our focus now in Bay, which is a small village. The motorcycles are several meters long and carry men and goods to Bofasam, which is the region's main city, located about 15 kilometers away. These motorcycles are a godsend for the farmers who live in villages where the roads are impassable for other vehicles.
Laden with 8 people, the vehicle heads down the dirt road, turning the heads of everyone it passes. 8 up is hardly a big number for a truck or even a car in Western Cameroon, but this is no ordinary form of transport.
We manufacture the motorcycle according to the order of the customer, because there are people short of size, we make for them short. There are some who are medium, we make for them medium. There are people who are long like me, we make for them long. It depends on the order of the customer.
The head turner is a giant motorcycle, an outrageously customized Leviathan, more than 3 meters long, that has been specially adapted to meet a gap in Cameroon's transport market.
Maybe when you carry 2 mothers or 3 people, they're a bit too compressed, too tight. We thought a little bit about welding the rack, and once we welded the rack, when we carried 3 people, they were comfortable. But when we welded it, it was likely to fall.
The beasts are used to take farmers and crops to the market and bring good back to outlying villages. Farmers in Baye say the giant bikes are a lifesaver for getting into market in Bofasam, about 15 kilometers away, on roads that are no more than tracks.
These motorcycles that you see here, they help us a lot. If they don't come here to the fields, it means that we are going to call here to the fields. The cars don't come down to the fields. Only the Benskinners, motorcycle drivers, come down to the fields to look for us.
A Benskinner with a supersized rig can make a good living, 2 or 3 times more than ordinary motorcycle taxi, which typically brings in about 5,000 francs per day.
When we work in the fields, they are the ones who come to take our products, to bring them to the city. Without them, our plantains, tomatoes, taros, corns, beans, without them, it is that the crops really rot in the fields.
The motorbikes are essentially tailor-made. The mechanics weld together a new chassis for a powerful motorbike and upgrade the suspension. The converted bikes may be useful, although the ride is hardly comfortable and road safety is rather a roll of the dice. Namukana Samuel, Switch TV.
Residents of Kenya's Lamu Island are fighting back against a growing number of motorbikes or boda-bodas driven around the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Our reporter Harry Chimea files the report.
In the old town of Lamu, a historic Swahili traditional outpost, a motorbike taxi weaves through a crush of donkeys, market hawkers, and wooden handcarts. A decade ago, there were only 2 vehicles on the sleepy island, a motorcycle for the electricity company and the district's commissioner's 4-wheel. However, in the past 2 years, there has been an explosion in the number of noisy motorbike taxis, known as boda-bodas, with the 2-wheelers clogging ancient narrow lanes and threatening Lamu's coveted World Heritage status.
Being a World Heritage Site, it's one of the things, very important factors that bring tourists from far to Lamu, and therefore we don't want to lose that. At the same time, we want to ensure that our people, our youth, are engaged in legal sort of livelihood so that they also earn a living. So that's why we are saying we want to balance between modernity and history.
The Deputy Governor of Lamu County says boda-boda numbers are surging, and now they have almost 400 boda-bodas. In February, the bikes were banned from the waterfront and 16 hectares ringing the UNESCO-listed Old Town.
You see, for somebody who is hungry, who is looking for something to eat, he will not buy your idea of saying, let's preserve this for a tourist. So we are educating them, that is sensitizing them on the importance of preservation, on the importance of tourism. They also know, but at the same time, we are looking for ways that we can engage these people for alternative livelihoods.
Anyone trying his luck in a bid to pass the UNESCO heritage site is quickly flagged down by a government official and forced to continue on foot toward the bustling heart of this ancient settlement of the Kenyan coast.
Ni kweli wao wanalamika kuhusu UNESCO, kuhusu heritage sites, but kwa sisi mayouth hatuelewi UNESCO ama heritage sites sisi inatusaidia nini, kwa sababu kama mimi nikitoka nyumbani mimi nikuja kutafuta, sijui kama kuna heritage site itanisaidia mimi, itanipa chakula, mimi nikuja kuchukua pikipiki langu niingie barabarani. Kwa hivyo mimi kiupande wangu mimi sioni kama heritage site inatusaidia.
Traditionally, goods and people in Lamu were transported by wooden dhows and donkeys used to plod the cobbled pathways, ferrying chunks of washed coral and mangrove timber to build Lamu's iconic Swahili homes. However, the climb of motorcycle engines has irritated some islanders who believe it jars with tradition, but also stirred fears of Lamu losing the unique character that lures tourists and global recognition to this remote corner of Kenya. Those trying to make a living with the motorbikes are not happy about being seen as a menace.
Kwa upande wa pikipiki, wale walikuwa wakifanya kazi peke yake ni watu ambao kwamba walikuwa na majukumu, wanalisha familia, mashida, hawana kazi. Tukaona afadhali tufungue hii biashara ya pikipiki, tufanye kazi. Lakini sasa tulikuja tukapata janga la corona ambalo paka sasa hivi linaendelea. Na mashule zilikuwa zimefungwa, ndio ikabidi na vijana nao ambao kwamba ni ma student wajiunge na pikipiki ndio wapate kupeleka kitu nyumbani.
According to Faisal, a boda-boda driver, on a good day, he could earn 1,200 shillings. Moreover, the coronavirus pandemic has brought economic hardships, a hurdle that Abdallah Mohammed, the secretary of the boda-boda cooperative, says the county should create jobs for youth.
Pia kama wao county inawezekana kuwapa vijana, wanaweza kuwapa vijana kazi ya permanent, watupatie hizo kazi za permanent, boda-boda tunaacha. Lakini kama hawawezi kutupa kazi za permanent, basi waache sisi tutafute riziki zetu.
However, the deputy governor says authorities are aware of the problem and are trying to work with young people to find alternative livelihoods. Reporting for Switch TV, my name is Harriet Chimea.
That's all here on Africa Focus, but keep the conversation going on our social media platforms. Switch TV Kenya, Joel Chacha M on Twitter, as well on Facebook, Switch TV Kenya and Joel Chacha. Keep sending in your feedback via 111 444 111. And my producer has been Faith Wambua, director Simon Nganga, and my name is Joel Chacha, and our sign language interpreter is Tracy Dokas. Until next time, do have a safe, great day.